Hi Hazel, thank you so much for joining us today. Hazel is here to talk all about how we can protect our brand. So as important as it is to build up your brand, it's obviously going to be important to make sure you protect all of the hard work that you've done as well. So I'd love to start off, and thank you again for joining us, but why is it important to protect your brand?
Thanks so much for having me, Katie. It is very important to protect your brand. It's an asset in its own right. So it's something that you can commercialize it, you can license it, you can assign it to others. So if you register a trademark, it gives you the exclusive rights to use and authorize the use of that trademark for whatever it is you've registered it for all goods and services. And it can be easier to take action against third parties for infringement if you've registered your brand.
Yeah. And so when is a good time to kind of start looking into all of this kind of thing? So, as a startup or, business in their first to say 5 years of business, the first few years we're really just trying to kind of get a handle on everything. And some people kind of put some of these things to the back burner. So when do you think is a good time to really starting to look into all of this?
I really think as soon as possible. Once you've come up with your name in the very early stages, I would certainly recommend that you would try to register your trademark because what can happen is if you don't register it till a later stage, somebody else might register it. And sometimes it can just get overlooked until you've got a situation where perhaps somebody's infringed your mark and then you don't have the benefit of a registration. So I would always recommend to put it on your list of things to do at the time of launch or prior to launch, because it takes 7.5 months to register a trademark.
Oh wow.
So I think as soon as possible, and it also makes sure that you're not infringing someone else's marks as well.
Yeah, exactly. You're not building a brand to then realise that you can't actually have that.
Exactly. And that happens more often than you realise, that people have invested in a great business idea and they've launched and then they realise the name they've picked infringes someone else's.
And then they just have to rename the business?
Yes, they have to rename the business. They may get sued for trademark infringement. There's also the bad PR that goes along with it and the cost of rebranding. If you've already paid for uniform signage, website, etc., it can really be quite costly. So it's best and cheapest to get it right in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And so does that mean though, if you're starting a business, you then would have to wait 7 months before you can really start if you're waiting for the trademark to come in?
No, you can use the trademark whenever you can use the trademark as soon as you've come up with it. But what you should do before you seek to use it or to apply to register it is to carry out some searches. So to make sure that nobody else has the same or a similar trademark, or that they have it used, that they might be using it as an unregistered trademark, so somebody else might be using it as a business name, for instance.
Okay, yeah. And so that's good to know, definitely. So do you have any other tips like that for someone that just kind of wants to get started and they don't know where to start or where to even begin with any of this kind of stuff?
Well, I think your number one is come up with the name, and that's obviously where they speak to you, Katie. And then once you come up with the name, and I would also make sure the name is as abstract as possible. You don't want it to be descriptive of the goods and services, because it just becomes more difficult to register and more difficult to take action against third parties. I would start as early as possible and carry out your searches beforehand. If you check the IP Australia website, that's really helpful. It's got some really helpful tips there with respect to registering and how you go through the registration process. One thing is important is to make sure you get your classes of goods and services right, because you register a trademark in a certain class or classes depending on what your goods and services are. So you need to get that right, and because if you don't, then that could be an issue at a later stage.
So, and is that a kind of a complicated process, like choosing which categories?
It's relatively straightforward. What you need to do is you really need to sit down and think about what it is that you do and what you intend to do under that mark. So, for instance, if you're in branding, advertising, you would go towards class 35, or if somebody was in the medical field, they would go to class 44. And IP Australia has you can actually put in what you mainly do. If you're a hairdresser, you could pop in the word in their class search and it'll tell you what class to go for. And then you can just look to see, have a good think about what it is you're going to do, and if you're going to expand your goods and services in the near future, then you should probably try and cover those now, because Once it's been filed, you can't actually expand the goods and services. It would mean you'd have to file a later trademark.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so if you were just getting started and you just wanted to do, you know, 1 or 2 classes right now, would you recommend starting with just getting, for example, the word trademarked and then doing the logo later? Or what would be the kind of steps you'd recommend?
I think the word trademark is always better because it will protect your trademark in any font or style. So it's if you may have a logo now that you may change in a few years' time. So once you have the word mark, so for instance, you know, Katie Creative will protect that no matter what sort of logo you put along with it.
Yeah.
But the logo as well is also important. If, for instance, you have you want a distinctive logo and you've got something that's quite cool, and then you can register that as well, but that will only protect that particular logo as to how that logo looks. So once you change the logo in the future, you should register that as well. But I would start off with the word mark, and it's relatively inexpensive to register as well if it's straightforward.
Yeah, okay, great. And so does the trademark have to be the business name?
No, the trademark can be the products that you're selling, it can be a business unit that you have. You may not even be trading under the trademark if it is the product. So your business name is something that's a little different. The business name is really something to let the public know who is behind that name. So you should definitely register your business name if you're going to trade under that name. But the trademark will give you separate rights. That's what will really protect you and give you rights under the Trademarks Act to stop others from using that name for the same or similar services.
Yeah, okay. So for example, just if I look at my business as an example, so I've got like Katie Creative is the business, but for example, my program is called BRANDFLUENCE. So that would be something that, for example, would have to be trademarked separately. It wouldn't mean that would have to be its own business.
No, not at all. No, you can register as many trademarks as you need to. But certainly, yes, BRANDFLUENCE, you would definitely go to register that, and you wouldn't have that as business name. Your business name would still be Katie Creative, and anything else you come up with, you might want to just register those. It just stops others from using the same name.
Yeah, great. That's really informative. So, how can people find out more about you or connect with you if they want to get some help with trademarks in the future?
There's no problem. Well, I'm easily located on LinkedIn. Hazel McDwyer. I work at Gadens. I'm a partner in the IP team there. So, alternatively, if you go to Gadens, that's GADENS.com, you'll be able to find my information. But otherwise, LinkedIn.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Hazel.